Good afternoon. Welcome to my channel. I'm doing a short video, hopefully, for a beginner in website building. The topic this afternoon is how to start a new website. Let me begin. Yeah, hello. Good afternoon. I'm Thomasin PA2066. Today is 15th of November 2021. Topic this afternoon is how to start a website. I try to make this as simple as possible. So there will be two parts to this topic because it's a big topic. I want to make sure that the terminology used as in website building in the definition is actually from as little as simple website, we call it website construction or website design, to a more technical word like WordPress, or in the case of web development, and then they call themselves as webmaster or web admin. The front end developers are the one that specialize in having coding They also do coding for CSS, HTML, JavaScript, all this in the front end of the website Of course, the server side is the back end, they call it back end developer, and the full stack developer they have both sides from the front end as well as the back end. So most of us are actually front end developer So let me maybe just subcategorize again. Under the front end developers, there are some who are not coders. I'm not a coder, so I'm just using WordPress. I'm a WordPress, maybe you can say I'm a WordPress enthusiast and WordPress builder So two parts of it is basics, which is actually more fundamental of the website What are the terminology used in a website? The other one is the illustration. I want to bring you to Hostinger.my, which is actually the server hosting company Server hosting company, Hostinger. I'm using Hostinger for a while, and I think it's a good service. So there is a H panel, Hostinger panel. Others they call it C panel So this C panel thing in the Hostinger side is called H panel. So I have done two parts of a video earlier on my website journey, which is 1st June 2021, and I also make some correction, did some changes, make some correction in the subsequent website video, which is reproduced on the 20th of September 2021. So if you are interested in go back to these videos to see, those are more complete video topics. The content of these videos are more complete than this afternoon, the presentation, which is for beginner, those who are really just beginning to learn about building website. So domain name, we are talking about domain name as a term that says it's like your car plate. So your car number. So let's say your car has got a plate number, maybe B for Selangor, then you have the plate number number 1221 or very good number 88. These are the so-called the number plate that is identifiable to your car. So domain name is actually more of similar to the car plate So you have a car and you need a car number. So you have a website, it's like you have a car website is like a car, then the domain name is a plate number. So in this case, domain name for a website, for example, I have my website called estateagentexam.com. So estateagentexam.com is actually a domain name, plate number for my website, which is more of content related to study of the estate agent's examination. So this is an example. So it's an important and so-called strategically important business consideration if you are looking at domain name. So if you are like in the old business where they start up business for many years, inherited from their parents, and then later on they want to have the website, so they need to make the website name, domain name, related to the brand of the business. Of course, you say Coca-Cola, they probably want the name of the website as coca-cola.com, something like that. So it's something which people can remember lah, and how you want people to remember your website lor, your brand name lah, short and easy to remember, so that people can straight away go online and type the name and then look for you. So this is called the TLD, top level domain. So in the words like .com, so country specific one is actually .my, .cn, those are the country specific lah. But if it is a generic, the general one, the generic like .com, .net, or general one called .com, .net, .tech, even the .asia, .fun. So these are all not tagged to the country. So these are called the general top level domain. So you buy a domain for a purpose that is commonly remembered. So people remember .com, maybe some remember .my, .net, but very hardly people will remember .fun, .tech. Even .online also, not so many people can remember. So some of these names, you cannot get the .com because .com is being used by somebody else. You would want to maybe choose a different TLD lah. So it's like, if you cannot find the same .com, then you either change the brand name, which is your domain, like Coca-Cola.com you cannot find, then you may want to use Coca-Cola.xyz lah. So these are one or two things that you want to consider. Let me just mention that domain name very important. You need to choose your domain name with a good TLD. So the .com is the best, of course. If you cannot find .com, then you probably look for .net or .online or .tech, depending on the type of business also. If you are a tech company, then it's .net or .tech. Right, domain name examples. I have a few examples here. You can read through. justletak.com, justletakproperty.com, thomassim.com. Later on, I will use thomassim.com to show you, as in the illustration, how you can register a new domain and also subscribing to a server hosting program or package. Right, hosting companies, you tend to hear a lot about GoDaddy. Sometimes you hear, because they put a lot of emphasis on advertisement. So you see GoDaddy putting a lot of emphasis on advertisement. That's why people know. But I used GoDaddy in the earlier years. Although they are supposed to be good, but at times they are more of a corporate side. There are a lot of corporate deals, but not for general starter. So my recent choice has moved to Hostinger. Hostinger is a good choice for me because I am not running big corporation. I only run small websites, and therefore I'm thinking that they are more tailor-made for my segment of market. Server companies, they also do hosting. Hosting means that they actually allow you to run your car. They also do registration for domain name, so you can go through them to buy the domain name. So big companies like Bluehost, SiteGround, HostGator, they are big companies all over the world. So you can buy your domain and subscribe to their service of hosting. No matter where you are, as long as you are connected to internet, you can subscribe to their plan. So it's like you are in Malaysia, you can subscribe to Bluehost in US or HostGator in US, or you actually choose to have some other server sites. Let's say some GoDaddy sites can be in Singapore or Hong Kong. So maybe you're subscribing to GoDaddy, their server is not in US, it's in some Asian country. So it depends on where you want your server to be. Like Hostinger, there is a server site in Singapore, so I subscribe to Hostinger server in Singapore for the purpose that we in Malaysia tends to want to load our sites faster because it is nearer to us in Singapore. So depends on where your traffic majority come from. If your traffic comes from US, then you probably want your server to be hosted in US. Right. There are, of course, ways to make payment. Making payment, usually we go into control panel, C panel. In the Hostinger side, it's called H panel. The other hosting company, they call them C panel. And you have a dashboard. So in this case, you just sign in as a secure password. You make payment through like online payment. Online payment by Hostinger, you can use bank transfer, inter transfer and you can use credit card, of course, for international. Right, packages, you can choose between a few packages. Of course, there are some entry-level packages, as little as in Hostinger side, 399 per month, roughly about 40 ringgit per year. Of course, you buy not just for 1 year, you buy for the whole lump sum of 4 years, 48 months, and add with the domain name. So sometimes you buy because you choose to have a package, buying the domain name at the same time subscribing to the hosting packages, and also the SSL, so the security padlock, the URL padlock. So for me, I have purchased a Hostinger with the Hostinger for thomassim.com, and it is for 2 years domain name plus 4 years hosting at about 290 ringgit only. So this 290 ringgit only, if lasts me for 3 to 4 years. So a single hosting package like this is actually good enough for a beginner. You are not looking at running a corporate website and just gets a website on. You are trying to learn how to do it with the minimum cost possible. Last time it was more expensive. You cannot have a website running below cost of 100 ringgit a year. Now you can actually have a website running below cost by having this Hostinger single website package. Last time it used to be about 600-700 ringgit per year, having a hosting a server as well as a domain name renewal. Domain name renewal sometimes is expensive, like your car plate. If your plate number is very beautiful, it's actually expensive to get, and therefore I want to highlight the fact that you have to understand what exactly are these differences between hosting a server as well as the domain name. What exactly is a website? It's actually a broadcasting server, broadcasting its files to your receiver, which is your handphone, which is your personal computer or your laptop or your tablet. So this receiver is, you are holding on this receiver, but the server is actually the one that is broadcasting the files. So server broadcasts the files, and you are at the remote computer accessing this particular page, and the page comes down with the files in the server coming to internet, going down to your browser, and your browser opens it up at your computer. So of course, files here means the file stored in the server, and this means it's a set database. Of course, the database in a generic term is actually data. So your files got data, so they transfer this data down to the server, over to you through the internet at your computer, and you open up this data inside your browser, and your browser allows you to see color pictures, video clips. So the ability of the database to store in the server, how much of database to be stored in the server is actually also depending on the server capacity, server capacity. So there are packages, of course, that give you higher storage and also higher capacity. You can have more databases, and there are, of course, more expensive packages for business use. So the hosting plans for single hosting package, like single website package for Hostinger, is actually 2 databases and allows you to run 2 websites. Of course, you can have many domains pointing to the same database. You can have 2 or 3 domains pointing to the same database. That's why you type some of these domain name, you get redirected to the same website. Right? So therefore, there are some companies, they want to buy their domain name so that they disallow others to buy their their name and disturb their online business. So they would actually buy all the domain name with the TLD top domain, top level domain. So they will probably buy, let's say, abc.com. They'll also buy abc.net. They'll also buy abc.online. They'll also buy abc.tech. They'll also buy abc.xyz. So therefore, you type abc in whatever top level domain name, it will go back to the same website. So right, for this package, hosting plan in Hostinger single hosting package is actually 2 domain or 2 databases. So this means to say you can have 2 domains, or you can have 1 subdomain and 1 domain. Subdomain is like, well, having the same domain name, but then you park it as a subdomain. So one of the example, abc.com, you park a subdomain is xyz.abc.com. That is a subdomain. Right, I explain here, different from subdomain is different from domain. Like domain is abc.com, subdomain is xyz.abc.com. Sometimes you have different packages, multi packages offered by the server company, premium web hosting, business web hosting. So they are unlimited websites you can host with this hosting plan. Later we will go into illustration and you will understand what I mean. Then the server company also give an email server to allow you to send website automatically, send email to the subscriber to your website. So some of this website has got subscription based membership. So there is a way that you can blast out email to all your customers by having a mail server. So this mail server usually will say, okay, admin@abc.com. So this particular mail server would receive all the contact forms, all the inquiries that you receive from your website email system. Now there is a lot of ways that you can do your e-marketing using these plugins within the WordPress system for email campaign. So this later, if you explore to your different types of plugins, then you understand what I mean. So CMS is actually a generic term called content management system. So this content management system, an example of it is actually WordPress. WordPress is an example of content management system. It manages the file system of a website. It's an open source system, free of charge, developed by many people over years. Some of the plugins that is incorporated in the WordPress system is actually the Pro version. Pro version usually is the paid version. You have to pay for a more enriched experience of use, enriched feature. So how files are organized is actually CMS. So it allows the website to store files in the server system, which has a system of how to keep all these files. So examples of these files names are WP content, WP config. SQL is actually the database. So a WordPress site will have a SQL file and a WordPress content, WP content, which keep all the important files inside this content. And you can actually migrate your site by having the WP content and SQL move to another server, and the whole site will be migrated. So the plugins are just to emphasize that the free version of plugins like Elementor, there is a free one, and then also WP Mail SMTP. Paid version of the same developed application can be like named like Elementor Pro, WP Mail SMTP Pro. More advanced feature, of course, and usually these paid versions are enhanced in its use, API integration, or even at e-commerce that you can actually do transaction, e-commerce transaction, like using Stripe or using PayPal or using online payment through all these plugins. These are all highly specific and also secure type of plugin, which comes with a price. Of course, you can have cracked or the now version of these plugins. So my experience is that this now or cracked plugins you choose to download from anywhere also in the website, but you need to be careful. they can be compromised in security lah. So there are sometimes you can have a crash website. That means your WordPress site cannot function, and therefore you actually cannot load the patch. So the WordPress jam up itself. So usually can be due to incompatible plugin. So you install plugins and these plugins are not compatible to your website. Then your website cannot load. So how to do it? To switch off the plugins, you go to your cPanel or go to your H panel in the case of Hostinger, switch off plugins and see whether you can log back to the WordPress site, and then later on choose an individual activation of plugins and to eliminate the plugin that is causing the problem. Or you can go to the file manager under the cPanel and try to identify the problem and delete the particular plugin and therefore restore your website. Of course, you can have the backup and restore. This one I will go through illustration in the second part of the talk, in the second part of the video under Hostinger illustration. So last and not least is WordPress migration. You need to learn how to migrate your website so that if you find that the server is not giving you good service and server is being too expensive, usually they would tie you with a few goodies in the first year, so give you a good incentive to come on board. But then the renewal sometimes is not going to be cheap. So sometimes you get another server company offering you a better rate, a better traffic and better service, then you would want to migrate your site from one to another. So it's like your parking lot in one parking company, and then charging you on the parking lot too expensive to park there. Then next you want to move to another parking lot, another company. So therefore you actually drive your car away from the original parking lot to the new parking lot. So this is an example of how you move your files from one server company to another server company. So move all these files, migrate your WordPress site. So general issues of upkeeping also, I guess just to summarize here, usually talk about catch SEO or search engine optimization, content delivery network for your loading, and also easy search by your users. Security very important. You need to learn about how to do backup and also how to do your email integration into your website. And of course, important also to learn how to do migration in case your website is not going to be permanent in one server company. So my conclusion for this beginner's talk on website is about website basics. I talk about website basics in terms of server as well as the remote computer, domain name, what are the subdomains, and also the top domain layers, hosting packages. I have spoken about different hosting packages, database SQL. I also talk about the WordPress system, what are the likely good plugins and paid plugins, free version of plugins. Most of us can actually survive with free version of the plugins. If you are not doing very specific things, probably entry-level things, free plugins will be sufficient enough for organizing your website. Some of the website I'm doing actually are all using free plugin. No need to pay for any plugin. In case you have a website crash, then how do you restore is important, and learning about keeping security migration, and on top of that, performance and backup. So I will go into the second part to show you some of the illustration in Hostinger. Later we'll go through that in the Hostinger navigation. See you there.